let's go to college football. And Mel Tucker, who was all the rage last year, was it last year he led Michigan State to an 11-2 record, then signed a 10-year, $95 million contract.
Historic, Chris. The largest contract for a black college football coach.
Yes, was tremendous. And now he is about to be fired by Michigan State. And Rob G, give us the all the details.
Oh, it's a lot of details. I'm gonna try to summarize it as much as possible. So
they were 11-2 2 years ago. My bad.
It
5-7 last year.
It all stems back to a relationship with Brenda Tracy, who is a sexual awareness speaker. You know, if you want to do some research on her and her involvement with Michigan State in years before, there's a lot to dive into. But she alleges sexual misconduct by Mel Tucker in December of 2022, including claims of unwelcome advances and masturbating without her consent during a phone call last April. Now, Tucker has since admitted to the phone sex, but he claims it was consensual, that they just had an affair between the two of them. She disagrees, and that's the crux of the whole situation. When this became public a couple of weeks ago, Michigan State let it be known that they were going to be suspending him with pay pending an investigation. And a court hearing or some kind of hearing was supposed to come up in October.
A school hearing, right. This was already in the works, Chris, before the story broke. Right?
And instead, they decided that they were going to expedite things and terminate him with cause being the key word here, because that allows them then to forfeit basically the remaining $79 million left on his contract. He's fighting this, obviously. And in fact, he issued a statement today that went out to ESPN and other outlets indicating that he would be looking forward to a potential lawsuit against Michigan State for the way that they've handled this situation, adding that he's looking forward to the discovery process.
One thing he's been saying is that since they knew about this in December, he was saying like they really almost like they didn't have an issue with it until it went public. Is that correct?
That is 1,000 correct.
Yeah.
Well, but supposedly they had a hearing that was coming up in October, so that can't be like.
Was that scheduled since it became public or before that?
That was prior.
Before, yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
But what his argument is, you didn't think it was grounds for termination back in December, so why suddenly now is it grounds for immediate termination? That's his
right.
argument.
He still hasn't been proven guilty.
No. Or he hasn't had his time in court, quote unquote, yet.
Yeah. So, Rob, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think that the behavior is what bothers me, or the what's the right term, Chris? The
judgment.
His judgment. Yeah, his lack of judgment. That's what bothers me as a leader of young men and a football coach. And I do believe that coaches should be held to a higher standard when they have other people's kids in their control, and people follow and look at what these guys do, and you go into kids' parents' homes and you tell them that you're going to take care of them and turn them into a man, and that whole spiel, and just the details bother me. Like I'm not saying that people make mistakes and have issues, Chris, and all kinds of stuff, but this woman who was, gang raped by 4 football players and is going around speaking to schools, it just seems very weird to me that would be the person that you wind up having some sort of relationship that's now in odds. It just, where's the judgment in that? Where's the idea that this could wind up not being a good thing, Chris, and blowing up in your face, given her history and what she's been through? So I hear Michigan State, and you know what he has going against him as well? That school's been through hell. They've paid out millions of dollars. Larry Nassar, Chris, was a doctor who was molesting the gymnasts, even USA Olympic gymnasts, and what he got away with for decades at that school. They've had so many issues. That school can't turn a blind eye. It can't. considering what's been done and what's happened at that school. But to me, if I looked at anything more so than he said, she said, and all the other stuff, and I get it, a man is innocent until proven guilty, but the judgment here is what. And he admits up to this phone sex or whatever, and you know this, Chris. Jeff Zucker lost his gig at CNN.
Was that his name? Jeff Zucker?
Yeah, Jeff Zucker. He was the boss at CNN.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Okay, I was thinking
Zucker.
of the other guy.
Who the guy at NBC?
The reporter at CNN. His last name wasn't Zucker, obviously.
No. I'm talking about
Okay.
the boss.
Yep.
Who's the other guy, the political guy, Chris, who got caught masturbating on a Zoom call with colleagues?
Yeah,
He was
I
on
can't
CNN.
remember. Yeah.
And he worked for a staff. But
We
again,
had a guy in our
Jeffrey Toobin.
Jeffrey Toobin. That was the reporter
Right.
who was masturbating on a Zoom call.
Right. He lost the job as the writer. CNN brought him back, Chris, and then they let him go. Like he was suspended for a while, then came back. And
Jeff Zucker was fired over a consensual relationship.
Yep. And
We had a situation at FS1, Rob.
Yep.
Guy who brought us there fired over a consensual relationship. So you're right. Like, even if Mel Tucker, who's married with children, is telling the truth and it was consensual, like you said, the judgment is just crazy. A person like that, what she does for a living,
Chris, that's what I can't.
Bizarre. I get, look, if he, and we just gave you several names of people.
So we're trying to say that it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon.
Right. Powerful people who were fired for similar situations. If indeed he's telling the truth about it being consensual. And coaches, Rob, there have been coaches in bad situations. Some have, been retained and after doing things like this, some have been fired. But he's not in a position. I do want fairness. If he's fired and another coach is caught doing something similar, I would want him to be fired too. But if he's clearly in the wrongdoing, then you can't really complain if somebody fires you. If you did something wrong, and like you said, you are a leader of men, and you just got to have better judgment. If you have that type of bad judgment in that instance, what other situation may you have poor judgment in? And so, I just hope, like all these situations, Rob, that the truth comes out. I'm not saying he's guilty.
We don't know the details.
I have no idea. But it's a terrible situation that, he put himself and his family in, even if it was a consensual relationship.
Yeah.
And
I feel
the
bad
fact,
for his
like
family.
I said, and what she does, like I said, for a living, it's just like, really? Come on, that don't make any sense at all.
And the other part too, Chris, and you know this, in the black community, when a guy like a Mel Tucker, got the job at Michigan State, excelled, and got that contract, you just hate to see it happen. Like you just like that was celebrated in our culture, right? That this guy got the opportunity.
Yep.
They've never been paying black coaches like that, Chris. Almost $100 million. Right? There's so few of black coaches to begin with. You hate to see one lose his gig and his situation and then, possibly forfeit $80 million, which is left on that contract.
Right.
That's another sad part.
And historically, a lot of times, if a black person in the public eye does something wrong, people, and in the black community, this is a big concern of ours, but people kind of put that on the entire black community.
Right.
And in this case, all black coaches. Right. And I would say shame on anybody doing that.
He's an
Because when
individual.
Joe Paterno overlooked that pedophile Jerry Sandusky on his
watch.
staff, we didn't say all white coaches are acting up. We didn't paint all white coaches with that same brush. And so let's not do it with black coaches. Rob, the guy that is the interim, Harlan Barnett, I think is his name,
Yes.
African-American. So that's it could have been a white guy, fine too, but that's a good sign that it looks like they're not painting, making this a reflection of all African-American coaches. Mel Tucker represents Mel Tucker. He don't represent any other African-American coaches or coaches, period. I get it. He's a coach. To some degree, you're representative of all coaches. But don't take what he did and use it as an excuse or, make it a character assessment of all African-American coaches. No more than you would do with a white coach or a coach of any other race.
100%. Everybody should be. Everybody has to deal with their own good stuff and bad stuff, Chris. They have to deal with it on their own, and you can't paint everybody with a broad brush. But this is a sad story, and I just think that from the judgment standpoint, you have to question his judgment and what was he thinking as a leader of young men. Right? That more than anything would disturb me or bother me if I'm his boss. And the AD there is black too, Chris.
Yeah. And look, I agree with you, Rob, about, if he did this, even if it was consensual, it's like I don't need him as my head coach, football coach. These young men, let's keep it real. We have had people in higher positions than this making some horrible judgments.
Oh, yeah.
President Bill Clinton, President Donald Trump. I'm just talking about when they were in office, running for office, about to be in office. Right. Yeah. So, I wish we'd hold all public figures like this too. Nobody's perfect, but if you're out there spouting all this positive rhetoric, you're holding yourself up as a leader, as an example, as a family man. Be that. Don't be a hypocrite.
Don't be a hypocrite.
If you out there doing your thing, do your thing, but don't be a hypocrite about it. And so, because like we said, Rob, what do you think his wife and kids are going?
I'm going through. The wife must be mortified, Chris.
Yeah, it's a bad situation. So